Hello, welcome to Spell Day. We're covering spell every single day of the year from the 5e PHP plus 3. Those specialty spells are homebrew spells. We're at plus 2 at the moment. You can head back in playlist to find them. And today's spell! The only thing worse than the Druid capstone, Shapechange.
Indeed you have. I replace your guitar strings with fruit by the foot.
Seems like a step backwards, but alright. I've replaced your DNA with fruit.
9th level transmutation, casting time of 1 action, range of self, components verbal somatic material, a jade circlet worth at least 1,500 gold pieces, which you must place on your head before you cast the spell. Duration, concentration, up to 1 hour. You assume the form of a different creature for the duration. The new form can be of any creature with a challenge rating equal to your level or lower. The creature can't be a construct or an undead, and you must have seen the sort of creature at least once. You transform into an average example of that creature, one without any class levels or the spellcasting trait. Your game statistics are replaced by the statistics of the chosen creature. Though you retain your alignment, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma scores, you also retain all of your skill and saving throw proficiencies, in addition to gaining those of the creature. If the creature has the same proficiency as you, and the bonus listed in its statistics is higher than yours, use the creature's bonus in place of yours. You can't use any legendary actions or layer actions of the new form. You assume the hit points and hit dice of the new form. When you revert to your normal form, you return to the number of hit points you had before you transformed. If you revert as a result of dropping to 0 hit points, any excess damage carries over to your normal form. As long as the excess damage doesn't reduce your normal form to 0 hit points, you aren't knocked unconscious. You retain the benefit of any features from your class, race, or other source and can use them provided that your new form is physically capable of doing so. You can't use any special senses you have, for example dark vision, unless your new form also has that sense. You can only speak if the creature can normally speak. When you transform, you choose whether your equipment falls to the ground, merges into the new form, or is worn by it. When equipment functions as normal, the DM determines whether it is practical for the new form to wear a piece of equipment. Based on the creature's shape and size, your equipment doesn't change shape or size to match the new form, and any equipment that the new form can't wear must either fall to the ground or merge into your new form. Equipment that merges has no effect in that state. During the spell's duration, you can use your action to assume a different form following the same restrictions and rules for the original form, with one exception. If your new form has more hit points than your current one, your hit points remain at their current value. Okay, so that's CR cap. By the time you get this spell, you're already level 17. There's some nasty things already there. And the issue is, it's not even, oh congrats, you're now playing as that, which you are, but also that your saves and your class abilities and race abilities or features are applied to it. So when you go into that form, the one thing taken are 1 physicality restrictions, there's that, alright. You keep all your class abilities, as long as your character is physically able of doing that. And your saving throws, and your bonuses from class and race. You're merging a player's stats with that of a CR17 monster of some kind. Not to mention when you get to later levels, there's dragons, adult dragons, or even higher within this category. Beholders, celestials, the restrictions are construct or undead. Any fiends on the table, you turn into one of the greater fiends that has the summon ability. Congrats, you summon a great scary fiend under your control, another demon. Then, again, actions in between, change back to normal, change back into it, summon that again, because that's an ability, or dragon breath. If the shape starts out with the breath already active, so that you don't have to roll to recharge, you just say, yeah, no, I'm just gonna swap again, just spend a few actions to guarantee I get it back. Not to mention, it doesn't even have to be every other action. You could do, well, actually it does, because it takes a full action to change shape. So yeah, Dragon's Breath, change shape, but not into yourself, into just a different dragon. Yeah, that Dragon's Breath is already ready. But this is another thing of the combinations of polymorph and it's options, or certain summon spells, this is options. It's up to what you change into, it's up to the CR your characters are at, it's up until... Okay, material component-wise. It's nice that it's not consumed. For what the spell allows you to do, maybe it should have been, but I kinda get it because it's concentration, so there... Oh, that's one thing. Depending on the stat block you change into, you might still have a chance of losing concentration. Which doesn't matter how much health your new form has. If concentration breaks, you're popping back to your regular. Wait, okay. Sorry, I'm doubling back, because I'm unsure of this one. But when it says you turn into the average form of a creature, I think this clause is namely talking about, humanoid races. You don't have class levels, and you don't have the spellcasting trait. Is that to say you can't turn into, like, an evocationist to then have all their spell slots, but if you turn into a fiend, or planetar, or, like, a sphinx, you still have their spells? If that's the case, that's great, and the spell is even scarier. I think that's what it means, just because it's next to levels. Okay. But yes, it's up to choice options, what you've seen before, what you've fought. It's almost... Because that's... Okay, it's this spell that got me to think that, in balancing reasons, polymorph, you had to have seen the creature before. The fact polymorph, you didn't have to see the creature before, is really, really ridiculous. Oh, because this massive 9th level spell does have that limit of seen before. Couldn't have just made that a unifying thing between, like, changing shape spells? Like, oh yeah, you had to have seen the creature to turn it into that? Anyway. Outside of that, kind of gives a sense of, like, filling out a Pokedex. Of, like, oh, congrats, you've seen or fought this thing before, and you have it cataloged, and now you can change into it. Congrats! Almost as if you caught it. But when it comes to health, equipment, it kind of goes into the same things that polymorph does. Except it has to make into account that your form might actually be able to hold your items previously, whereas when it came to a beast, you're likely not going to be able to hold on to a staff or a movable rod. The one nice thing is spellcasting carries over. That's something. If your character or your new monster is still capable of, like, you know, somatic components, verbal components, and material components. So still a very scary thing. Very scary. Honestly, yeah. I mean, mention below. What are the scariest things you've seen Shapechange use with, or hypothetically is the scariest situation with Shapechange? I'll be looking down in the comments for them. 10 out of 10. Debated 9. Well, 9? No. Because it's 9 if you haven't seen the high-end CR things. Because even at the worst, it's an extra tank of abilities and hit points for your character. At the worst. And it's not in the sense of like, oh, congrats, you have like 15 temporary health. No, you could have something upwards of like 200 plus, maybe even more hit points. Especially if you're rolling hit dice, you might even have more. Not to mention, I've seen people argue whether the, not resilient, is it the resilient? The feat that gives you 2 extra hit points per level, or hit dice. I've seen some people argue that that carries over as a class trait, and thus carries over into the hit points of the new creature. I don't think so, but I've seen it argued. But anyway, that's to say that's the lowest bar of what this spell can do, is provide a huge pool to tank damage with. Because that's the other thing, is it's the benefits of, it's not, okay, also retroactively taking back the statement from earlier. I didn't remember the health thing, or the health clause to stop you from doing what I thought you could, which, what Capstone Druid can. So, not as bad as that. Still pretty bad. Still really bad, because this isn't a beast, this is anything, outside of constructs and undead. I mean, 10 out of 10. Like, the options down in the comments are gonna argue for this. Or at least point towards it. See you down there.